everybody, welcome to the United Dems gathering. And this is our night for our regular meeting. We usually meet at Seafood City in their meeting room, and you're all welcome to come and join us on the first Thursday of the month. And so we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our flag is over here. Yes, indeed. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. John?
Thanks, John. That's Jonathan, our president. Yay! So before we start tonight, I'd like to point out the Renee Hamilton, who's sitting in the back of the room right there. You see her there. And she's with UC Berkeley Lawrence Hall of Science and Vallejo's Inventor Lab. And so they're working with Stephen Manor Elementary 5th graders science camp.
Yes.
And I think that's cool. Did you want to say something?
Thank you. Yes, we're trying to send these fifth graders to science camp. So we're taking donations, or you can buy some lovely chocolates for $1. And we thank you for your support. You've done already. So thank you, everyone.
And I found that she's actually willing to take her money even if you don't want the chocolate.
I am.
So I think it's really cool that we're helping kids with become inventors.
Thank you, John.
Hey, yeah.
Can I make a courtesy request?
Yes, ma'am.
Last time it was wonderful, but towards the end, we all got so stimulated, we tend to leave towards the back. And I remember Councilman Robert McConnell was making a fabulous answer to a question about, 6-point answer about the medical marijuana situation, and people were kind of leaving, and it was kind of embarrassing. So please be respectful of the candidates and try to take the conversations outside, and try to stay to the end if you possibly can. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, this is the United Dems, and we're going to start off with Linda Seifert, and we're going to give each person 5 minutes. We've done a random selection, but we're picking Linda first because she's kind of the oddball in the organization.
I'm going to see if you can hear me without this. Can you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I guess we have no alternative but to use the microphone. It's great to be here, and I really want to thank the Dems for inviting me to be here. I am the only Democrat candidate from District 2. And so my opponent won't be here tonight, and I can't say that I'm sorry about that, since I love being a Dem, and I know you all do too. So, I ran 4 years ago on a platform of change. I ran because I got mad, and because we needed to make sure that the voice of the community was part of the process. And I campaigned on open and transparent government and making sure that the people had a voice. And we were very, very, very successful. I beat my opponent by 34 percentage points, which is a huge margin in political races. And I continue to be very proud of that. And I would say that in the 4 years since I've served, I have never forgotten who brought me there. And it was really all of you. And so I, first of all, say thank you for all your support last night, and again to encourage, hope, or to let you know how much I would really and truly appreciate your support for this race. And in looking around the room, I know I have most of it. I also want to say that not only do I have your support, but in the 4 years I gained the respect of all of our Democratic leadership at the state and federal level. They've all endorsed my campaign, and I am extremely, extremely proud of the endorsements that you will see on my mail as it starts coming out in the next few weeks. So what are the issues that we've been confronting in the last 4 years? And what are we going to do about them as we move forward? The last 4 years have really, as you all know, been permeated, overshadowed by the economic challenges that have impacted government, which have impacted the nonprofits that we work with, that have impacted the employees that come to work every day, some of whom unfortunately don't come to work anymore. It's been permeated by home foreclosures, it's been permeated by just a downturn in the expendable funds that we all have. And so for me, most of what I thought was important is how do we help working men and women in our communities as we go forward. So in looking at the choices that we've had to make, we've cut our budget by 25%. And I would tell you that I am fiscally responsible. Not only have we cut the budget by 25%, but I've cut my pay, and we've cut the pays and the pay and salary of many of our workers, and sometimes to their detriment. But it was necessary in order to simply to manage our budget and our economy at the county level. You know, the other issue that we have confronted most recently is public safety issues. And public safety is one of those areas that's it's something about making us feel comfortable in our homes, comfortable going out at night, comfortable being in our own communities, going to our parks, taking a walk. And so as we're looking at some of the changes that are coming forward with the transfer of prisoners from the state prison system back to our counties, we need people in a county government that have the experience, that are proven, to help us work through the challenges that does create for us. And I've been endorsed by the sheriff, as well as all the deputy sheriffs. So they believe that I'm the right leader for the next 4 years going forward to help us through those challenges, which will have an impact on each and every single one of you. You know, the other area that I think that we're going to see a lot more discussion as it becomes more and more in the public eye is the impacts of the dissolution of redevelopment agencies, which was part of the governor's budget, the governor's last year's budget reforms. And what he was looking for was a way to help fund our schools. And so by dissolving redevelopment, the expectation was that more money would go back into the schools. And whether that's going to happen remains to be seen. But I was just selected as the chair of the oversight board for the City of Vallejo's successor agency committee. And so we will be looking at how we manage the resources, not only to protect the city, but to protect the county and to make sure that we have the kind of communities that are going to be able to grow and prosper while at the same time supporting our schools and education. You know, when I think about what do we need, how do we build, how do we recover from the great challenges that have confronted us due to the economy, which is something that was totally out of our control, is what do we need to do? Well, we need to, I think, to make sure that we have the kind of community that people want to come to and live in, so that we can grow our jobs, so that we can grow our businesses, so that we can put people back to work. And so I say that we need to focus on education, and we need to focus on some of the amenities, so that we are the kind of place that is a great home for all of us, it's a great place for our families. And so one of the things that you look at my website, you look at some of the things that I've done in supporting children with my work as the vice chair of First Five, as my role as the vice chair of the Solano Land Trust, as chair of the Villa Solano Air Quality Management District Board of Directors. Those are the kinds of issues and concerns that I do believe have a huge impact on all of us. You know, I haven't been terribly specific in this first 5 minutes, and I don't know if there's a timer around, so I'm not sure how I'm doing time-wise. But
Take another minute.
I have another minute. So you know, I can talk about just some of the things that I also think are important going back. You know, we have a community stability fund to help through First Five, which we initiated during my tenure on the First Five board, to help take care of families and children during these really, really difficult times. You know, I instituted what's called a local preference policy, so that our local businesses have an advantage when it comes to bidding for county contracts. You know, the county is the biggest employer in the county. I mean, we are huge by comparison. And so, you know, we need to make sure that when we talk about rebuilding the economy, that we're doing our part. So I am constantly pushing for making sure that our contracts go to local vendors, to go to local people, so that we can build from within. Because, you know, every dollar that we pay to someone, whether it's to an employee, whether it's to a contractor who's doing work for us, if they are part of our Solano County, then 60 cents on that dollar, we can be assured, will be returned in our own community. So the investment in our people reaps huge profits for us all. You know, I love my work, and I am really, really proud to have been able to reach out to people for the last 4 years. And I have to tell you, I really hope that you will all do your part in helping me to be reelected again and be able to do it again for another 4 years. I so much have appreciated your endorsement and your support, not only last time, but this time. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to continuing to work with all of you. I have my brochures in the back and my signs. And unfortunately, I'm going to need to leave by 10 minutes to 8. So if you don't have a chance to ask me any questions, all my contact information is on the back. So I hope I'll have the chance to answer some questions for you before the evening is out. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, we did a random selection to pick who would go next, and Susan, you're up.
Great, I gotta follow the secret, that's pretty cool. Hi, I'm Susan Anthony. I was born, raised, and educated in Solano County, and I've worked with the public directly for the last 35 years. I am visiting and talking to the public. I've been pressed to do my part to contribute back to the community, so that's why I decided I would get involved and see if there was a following to look to get a representative of our community directly into the county supervisor position. So I tell you a little bit about myself. I started back in '79. I worked for Vic Fazio as an intern for his Congress position, and he got in and he served 20 years and retired. So now I've also worked for Gloria Exline, and she schooled me through a strict discipline and representing only facts. And I also wanted to say that in the supervisor position, as well as other decisions that would be made in the different committees, I am representing the taxpayer. I think that we're overwhelmed, and I think that someone needs to speak up and say enough is enough. And I see that there's another rate increase coming from the water department or the sewer department, and I was like, when is it going to stop? We can't. We're getting fewer and fewer people, and they're expecting us to pay more and more. So I decided I would go ahead and see what I can do to help facilitate some of these issues. So a little bit more about myself. In 1984, I decided that the people willed the wetlands preservation with Proposition 19 that said that it was $85 million set aside for wildlife, fish, and habitat enhancement. So I became a spokesperson for our Vallejo wetlands, and I was in a letter writing campaign for 4 years involving President Reagan and the governor, and we got $4.5 million allotted to the Fish and Wildlife to buy the Culligan Ranch. And also, I helped get a committee during Gloria Exline's term to get the land use issues worked out so that we can get the Highway 80 connected to the 37 corridor. And so President Bush contributed out of his $3.5 million that went into the project, so that it went with the $4 million, which made a total of $8 million for Vallejo, and that was just on a letter writing campaign that I did. So I do have a lot of perseverance and tenacity when I put my mind to something. So I am. So anyway, when I went up to the supervisors meeting, and I've been keeping track of what's going on, I am a little concerned with some of the projects that are going on that they keep spending money on. And I know that the citizens have been concerned about, there's a train station going through, and there's really a lot of opposition to it, but nobody seems to be hearing the public's concern. And I'm also concerned with our children in that there's plans for accepting another $25 million for adding 5 more courtrooms to our court system. And I have a business on Benicia Road, so I can see, we all know it's called, they're doing their quota, but really it's on the backs of us that they're adding extra money to do the budget. And I can watch them run around out there like a dog chasing a cat. As soon as there's room in the court, they want to fill it up. And if we accept this $25 million from the state to build 5 more courtrooms, even though it's civil courts, it's going to free up more room in our local courts, which means our kids and our citizens are going to have more room to fit into the court. And I am opposed to using the court as a cash cow for, aiding our financial burden. I don't think it's fair for our kids. Especially some of these fees are $600 just for one ticket. One lady, I was in there on a leash thing, and she had to pay $700 for chihuahuas. And I'm like, $700, and the judge didn't even crack her one, it was way too much money, and I just couldn't believe it. So I am concerned for the need for the money, and I think that the only way that we're going to get this leveled out is if we stop the spending on special projects, and we've got to get people that have special interests that are looking to gain from our tax dollars. They have to set aside. This is not about them. It's not. There's 3 items in the room, and it's me, me, me. This is about us. This is about the taxpayers, and we have to all group together and watch this budget. And furthermore, I'd like to say that I am writing, I have been writing to President Obama about this business of starting a fabrication shop on Mare Island. So I've asked him for his help in that. What really concerns me is that the Bay Bridge is available, and in order for us to make money and to put our people to work, we have to have something to work with. We either have the tourism industry where we can really cater to these people that are bringing in millions of dollars, and I'm really concerned with outside interests that are coming in and scaring people away because these guys come in from out of town and cause a ruckus, and then they make our image look bad. So I think that they should really be dealt a strong hand. Secondly, on the metal issue, we've got the Bay Bridge, and that's billions of dollars in iron ore that was mined out of the ground by our citizens of the United States, and it's worth billions. And I'm just trying to find a way through either a natural resource laws that metal will remain here in the United States. So anyway, that's kind of what made our nation great, was our natural resources. And I mean, we can't just start giving it all away during a hard time. Just like when the governor was in there trying to sell our state buildings, everybody's looking for that instant buck. Whether it's and so you can't just give our Bay Bridge away. Just take it away. I mean, this is something that we could use and get a contract for the high-speed rail system and put up and hire a group coming in that are in the steel industry that can put up shop on Mare Island and get a contract to build the rails for the high-speed rail system. Or we can make other consumer goods out of the steel. So we got to have something to work with, and the steel is a very expensive. It's going up, and it's just accelerating in price like 600% since 2003. So it's something that we really should all be concerned with. If we don't, when the time comes, if they don't get this iron theft under control, we're going to have them ripping out the utilities, continue to rip out the utilities through all of our municipalities, and it's just needs to be. Am I out?
Here.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that was fast. All right, okay. So Thank you. Okay.
Next up is Lee.
Lee who?
Stern.
Stern. Lee who? Simmons.
Thank you.
Okay. Doesn't know her name. Well, I've changed it many times, and I have a lineage, and it started out Dixie Lee Bradley. I was born here, and this is too high, and I don't know how to get it down here. I got it right there. I was born Dixie Lee Bradley, and born here in Vallejo. I'm a California girl. And then I married David Stern, and it became Dixie Lee Stern. And then I dropped my first name because I'm from the South Vallejo, and that's not far enough south. So I decided to go by my middle name, Lee. And my mother pointed out that that's kind of a Southern name too. Last, I married my second husband, Bob Simmons. I kept the name Stern because that's my children's name. And I have 2 children. They're both grown and gone, away from home. They're 48 and 49. I have 4 grandchildren. I have a lovely life. We play music. We've had the opportunity to travel all over Europe. I would never have had that opportunity unless I married Mr. Bob Simmons. And we have a really great time. But I saw that Barbara Candelas retired. And I was a little upset because I felt like we needed someone to stay on the board that had a background and had some skills and ability at the county level. And I had just gotten both of my knees replaced. And I'm going to tell you, when you get your knees replaced, all of a sudden you go from 85 down to 45. It's the most wonderful thing to be able to move and not feel pain. So what I'm trying to explain to you is I have 8 years on the board of supervisors. I served well. I was a good supervisor. One of the main things that I did was got a lot of people to the doctors. I begged doctors to see the people that had a right to Medi-Cal but couldn't find a doctor. The doctors were afraid to serve. The reason they were afraid to serve was because they'd end up with all the Medi-Cal patients and that run them out of business because the state didn't pay enough. So I sat on the medical master plan for the county of Solano, and I went to the health people and I said, well, what in the world are we doing? I got all these people lined up in my office asking me to get them a doctor. And they said, well, we've been waiting for somebody to ask us. And I said, well, don't wait, let's do something. So they called in doctors, community people, we put together a master plan, and we created a new managed care program for 40,000 people who couldn't receive health care. Now that was 20 years ago, and there were other things that I was able to help do. And I wanted to say about endorsement lists. I want to just real quickly. When the last time I ran for office, I had every single mayor endorsing me, plus past mayors. Every single one of them. I lost that year when I ran to a young fellow that came into town, and he promised the world to everybody. He was gone in 4 years. And the first 6 weeks he was there, he was in Africa somewhere, came back to pick up his check. They said, you're not getting paid. I believe I'm here to serve the people, not the people serve me. It isn't about the position, it's about the work. And I want to stabilize it, help stabilize it, and make it, help stabilize it for the people who work there and deliver the services. I don't deliver the services for the county, the people who work there do. And I think that it's really important that we have people that understand that the work that the county does is extremely important because we take care of the most fragile people. And at the same time, we take care of the land to make sure that we've got a beautiful, beautiful place where business can come to. Now, you can't go out and get Lucas. I mean, I was thinking the other night that we should just send Linda Seifert down and say, Mr. Lucas, you have to come here because it's wonderful. I actually thought about going myself, but I didn't want him to think I was crazy. So I haven't gone. Turn that phone off. Life is good. Life is fun, and it's to be lived well. I wanted a voice this time because I think it's really important we get people that can work together. We have to negotiate, and we have to build a team with the people we work for as a county supervisor, the people who work for the county and give the direct services. I think it's important that they know that they're safe, and if they're being asked to drop their salaries, then it starts from the top down. Now, we've seen some of that go on. The budget is still not solved. The problem still isn't solved. If we need to do more of that, they need to feel like they can trust the people that are making the decision to cut their salaries. And they need to know they can trust that the people who are cutting the salaries will cut their own at the same time, and benefits, and everything else. And the one thing about public work is we give people benefits, we take care of the people, and we're seeing more and more in the private sector that they're cutting the people who are doing the work directly for them, they're cutting their throats. They're not giving them benefits, they're not paying for anything. We can't live the quality of life that we are used to living if that stuff keeps going on. And I shouldn't call it stuff, but I call it stuff. Okay? We can't do that. I would like to give you the next 4 years. I would like to serve you. You have my resume. My resume will tell you some of the other things that I did. I also testified before Congress. And I know looking at me here tonight, it's kind of hard to believe, but I did, to try to get the pink slip on our water resources on Monticello Dam. And I had the opportunity to go with Representative Fazio and Representative Tom Hannigan, who represented our state, and 2 or 3 mayors, and I testified before Congress, the scariest thing you can imagine for a young woman. And I testified before Congressman Miller, and Congressman Miller kept cutting everybody off, and finally I said, excuse me, that people spend their hard-earned money to send me here to testify before you and tell you what we want. And I said, so I would appreciate it if you let me finish what I'm saying. He said, go ahead, Ms. Simmons. When I walked out of there, the people who were helping us said, good job, you just took on the quarterback. I didn't know that, and I started to shake afterwards. But I shake a lot, but I get the job done. I get the work done. I also want you to know that I do my homework and I work hard. And in a $300 million budget, I found over $11 million in discrepancies. And it wasn't just in one budget, it was in numerous budgets. So what I'm saying to you is I will do the work. I'm hardworking, I'm on top of my game, and I will do the job. And I have 8 years experience, so I hope you'll give me consideration. Okay, thank you.
So next up, Tony.
Well, first I have to warn you that I can't speak for 5 minutes. I don't think I've ever spoken for 5 minutes. You need the mic? Oh, for the recording, okay. Let me get it a little higher. I'm very unmechanical. Can you help me? Can you get this thing up? Is that what it is? Okay. Oh, after a magnificent start. First of all, I want to say that I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the cooperation and the enthusiastic support of my wife. So I want to acknowledge Helen's here. I want to further say that if the family as a whole wasn't supportive, I wouldn't be here. So Madalena, my daughter, is also here. Both of them I spent the entire day today at the WEDA board meeting in San Francisco, which is the ferry service I'm currently serving. In terms of commitments, my commitment goes back 34 years for this city, from the day that I arrived, and I have stuck with it all this time. And today happened to be a day for the board meeting. So I toyed with the idea of, well, I've got so much energy, can I devote that much to what has to be done there and to here? And I decided you stick with what you promised you would do. So you go to the board meeting. And so we did that. We had a good meeting, and I'm very glad to be here. When I got back, I spent the hour that I had to prepare for this being coached by Helen and Madalena as to what I should say and how I should say it. So, that really sets you up. So let me just say that at this point, I want to emphasize a few things that they thought were important. One is that these are challenging times. They continue to be challenging times. And what we need, I think, to deal with the issues is people that, and I know that I share these skills with others that are up here tonight, people that can reach across boundaries. In other words, people who are not into creating separate groups or encouraging factionalism, but people who can marry different interests and try to take what is very important to one person, very important to the other, perhaps coming from a different place, bring them together, and then reach a decision which has substantial support. So whatever you're promoting in terms of change can be permanent change, or has a chance to be permanent change. Now, so I think the skills that I bring are the skills that have to do with collaboration, with the ability to talk to people you don't necessarily agree with, be respectful, listen carefully, and try to hear the best of what they have and move from that. My experiences in that regard have been numerous. I think many of you are familiar with the way I conducted city council meetings, always respectful of the public, always respectful of people's opinions, no matter how obnoxiously delivered from time to time. As far as being a peacemaker, yes, but I can be a warrior. As Lise Simmons just said, it is necessary at times to be very upfront with what you think and to appear in the public sector, whether it's in Sacramento or in Washington, D.C., and have a very clear agenda and push the agenda. And I think anybody who has been on the council with me over the years knows that I can do that, and that I do it in a way that does not insult, does not upset, but usually works. And with that, we were able to attract to our efforts to redo Mare Island significant sums of money and a tremendous effort over a year to come up with a plan that to this day is a viable plan for the redevelopment of Mare Island. Now, when we did that, I'll get to that. The issue is, have you ever made hard decisions? Well, you know what? It's never been easy. Never been easy. And during the first few terms of office, which I would call relatively easy, I soon hit what was probably the largest challenge that this community has ever faced, and that was the base closure. And during that time, we had $500 million removed from our economy and 6,000 to 10,000 jobs in the space of 2 years. And we had to do that in a way, and I'm saying we, it was not just me, it was myself, the council, and all the people that we worked with, particularly the 52-member committee that I put to, what I might say, without charter authorization, but because the council wanted me to do it, I put together a 52-member committee to come up with that plan, because the Navy made it very clear to us, the Pentagon, that we would not get a dime for the reuse of Mare Island or the cleanup of Mare Island unless we had adopted a plan within as short a time as possible. We weren't going to get the money until we had the plan. So we had the plan within 1 year. That was an example of leadership that goes to, because we have everybody, every possible interest. I appointed to that committee, and we did it, and we did it successfully. And I want to, I don't want to take credit for everything, but this is not a time to be modest, is what my daughter told me. So I will not be. We faced, when I came back in office, I was out for 4 years, and then when we came back in office in 2000, we faced financial hard times. We had a 14% increase in police and fire that was due in July of that year, and we had to deal with it. And how do you deal with it? You either cut, I gotta be careful with the words, you cut your staff drastically, your police staff. And crime to me is the biggest issue in this community right now, and it was then. You either go after reducing your staff drastically, or you try to spread it out. And at that time, we had a very strong economy. And so we thought, well, rather than decimate our police department, we would try to spread it out. Well, you know what? Instead of things getting better, we had a collapse of the economy. That was something else to deal with. And the very last thing I dealt with when I was in office, the last month I was in office, I appeared in a binding arbitration hearing in which I had to defend the city and the city council against a letter signed by a city manager that established an incredibly high minimum number of police officers that we were to maintain no matter what the cost. And it would have killed the city. I testified that that letter had never been approved by the city, had never been approved by the council, and should not, that the arbitrator should not hold us to that. The problem was we had a situation where an arbitrator could make a decision that bound us, and with no responsibility, by the way, for coming up with money. That was the last thing I had to do. I am devoted to this city. I'm devoted to serving you. I want to be back there to do it, and I'm in this for nothing else. I want to serve the people. It's been 30 years of commitment, and as far as I'm concerned, it is not over.
I knew he could talk for 5 minutes. And next, we'd like to invite our regular up here. Aaron?
All right. Our frequent flyer. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. This is a great crowd, and I'm happy to see you. As many of you know, my name is Erin Hannigan, and so maybe many of you don't know, I'm a lifelong resident of Solano County. I was raised in Fairfield, and then my husband and I moved here to Vallejo 22 years ago, and we bought our first house up in the Heritage District. Since living here in this wonderful community called Vallejo, we fell in love with it. We fell in love with the environment, we fell in love with the people, we fell in love with the location, and all that makes Vallejo a wonderful place to live. Quickly became acquainted with our neighbors in the Heritage community, and we were soon having progressive dinners and having parties at each other's homes and talking about the architecture and some of the improvements we were making. That led to a position on the Community Development Commission, working to distribute federal funding through the block grant program. And then I started having children, and so I had to pull back from that level of community service and devote my extra energy, because I was working full-time, to being a mother. I'm very fortunate in working for my employer, State Farm, and in 2003, actually it was about 2002, they decided they wanted to move and relocate 200 employees from Rohnert Park to a diverse community in the East Bay. And I'll be damned if that didn't sound like my community, Vallejo. And so I stood up for my town, I stood up for my community, because certainly I wanted to shorten my commute. But more importantly, I knew the value of bringing over 200 jobs to our community that could be head of household jobs, that would bring employment when we have lost employment, and bring hope to people here who were looking for jobs. In 2004, we opened up the State Farm building that's down on the waterfront. We're still there, and we're up to 220 employees. We only started with 180, but so we've gained. Since I've been elected to office, I've been focused on jobs, creating jobs in our community. You can talk to anybody here, and really the biggest concern is unemployment and the lack of jobs. And what I found being a resident and actually working in my own community was I had extra time. I had time I could devote to my children's school. I had time that I could devote to building my family. I also had time to continue to be involved in my community. I was elected to the board at the Vallejo Chamber, and I served on the Economic Development Commission there for a number of years. When I saw what was happening around our community, we had some development projects that were stalled in our court system. We had activity that was chasing other business out of town. It was time for me to stand up and actually run for office. And so I did. I ran for county supervisor in 2007, and thanks to the endorsement of the Democrats and working families.
City council.
What'd I say? Oh, wishful thinking. Thank you for the clarity. For city council, I was elected in 2007. Shortly after that, discovered that we were having some severe financial problems in the city. I knew it was bad. I didn't realize it was that bad when the first employee I was introduced to was a bankruptcy attorney that we ended up paying millions and millions of dollars to help us unravel the financial situation in the city. So I've been working hard for my community to make sure that we are fiscally sound and stable. I've had to make drastic cuts in our service levels. I've voted and through renegotiation of our employee contracts, we've reduced salaries, we've reduced benefits, and we've created long-term solutions for the future, for today and for the future. Our balanced budget plan as a council extends out to 5 years from today. We actually have adopted a policy that I think is very sound and something that I will take with me to the supervisors board. I got it right? And that is to obviously stay within a balanced budget, put money away for a rainy day, spend one-time monies on one-time expenditures, and always think about the future, create sustainable solutions. Working on the Soul Trans board, I've been there since the inception, and that's the consolidation of our Vallejo and Benicia bus system. We've put together a retirement pension plan. Initially, it started out with CalPERS, which are with a much higher formula, but they haven't responded to our requests. So we are currently pursuing a different option, one that provides more flexibility for us as a municipal employer, and it's called PARS. And that is the direction that I think we can all agree on that we need to move forward with for sustainable solutions. I've been working, I'm afraid you're gonna stand up. I'm not just concerned about our education system, I'm actually been working with the school board and educators as well as parents in developing a Career Academy master plan. And the school board has adopted a wall-to-wall academy program based on that work that would put career academies in our 2 high schools, essentially giving an opportunity for our students to want to come to school and stay in school so we can get the most we can get from their tax dollars from the ADA, from the state. And actually graduating students who are going to go on to careers, whether it's vocational or college-based, but will be a much better product than what we're currently educating, and that's, we have a 40% dropout rate, and none of us should be happy about that. So I've been working on that. I've also been working on crime. I've put together a chronic nuisance ordinance in 2008. It has not been adopted by the board yet, the council. However, just by the discussion of this chronic nuisance ordinance, we've reduced crime in our largest multi-family unit complex downtown by over 50%. And I've been threatened a lawsuit by 4 times, so I've been persevering. When you're thinking about who you're gonna vote for your county supervisor, you want somebody who's a proven leader, somebody who has integrity, experience, who can get the job done. And I am that person. I've made the hard decisions in the toughest of times, and I will take what I've learned and the experience I've taken and listen to your concerns and take them forward to the supervisorial board. I will work collaboratively with my other members as well as looking for sustainable solutions for the city of Vallejo. We need a strong advocate here in Vallejo, and I plan on being your strong advocate. I want to thank again the Democrats for endorsing me. Also Working Families, the Sierra Club, Congressman Mike Thompson. I'm very proud of that endorsement. I worked hard for that endorsement. The Deputy Sheriff's Association has endorsed my candidacy as well. So thank you very much for coming tonight, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you, United Democrats of Southern Solano County, for hosting this event. I would be honored to have your vote. I can't seek your endorsement because I'm a federal employee, but I can seek your vote. So, and the reason why I'm running is, first of all, I'm Katie Meisner. It's Meisner. It seems to be a hard name to pronounce. The reason why I'm running is we need strong leadership at the county right now to face the challenges ahead. And I have a proven record of financial management and community involvement that ensures fair, smart, and effective services for our community. And the problems of our country, our state, our county, our city took years to develop, and to fix them it'll take smart, effective management by people like me and not those who helped create the problems in the first place. If you look at Vallejo's finances from 2000 to 2007, we saw some employee groups increase by double some of the others, which personally is not fair. I know we had binding arbitration back then, and that tied the hands of many people. That was removed by a majority vote of the citizens of Vallejo. But while we were in bankruptcy, while we had the chance to even out some of those contracts, we had some favoritism going on. We had the council majority at the time increase the pay of the police officers by 6.3%, which resulted in a loss of 17 police officer positions. We also saw that, whoops, I'm sorry, I can't read my notes. We also saw that the VPOA was given $1 million in bankruptcy. Not sure why that was. It just was money that could have been saved for other things. So more than ever, we need somebody who understands the complexity of government finances with proven experience and reality of what we can afford. And I think I'm that person. We all know that money is scarce. I've read the county budget. It's been a crisis for the past 3 or 4 years, and the biggest threat is poor financial management, which will erode our ability to provide services. And I will use my knowledge and the issues of my financial expertise to make sure money is spent will do the most good. I have 20 years of financial management in the nonprofit arena. I was a budget director for the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. I was there when we faced the crisis of the 911 and .com bust and the resulting stock market that really had an impact on our budget. I helped manage the budgets for the construction of a AIDS treatment hospital in Uganda. And I traveled to Rwanda as part of the Clinton Foundation team to help create an HIV treatment plan for that country. I understand complexity of government budgets because it's very similar to nonprofits. And I understand the critical need for service delivery as the San Francisco AIDS Foundation has done for many years. I deeply believe in transparency in government. I have done numerous analyses and writings about Vallejo's financial issues for the Vallejo Independent Bulletin. I also hosted community outreach meetings at the Meyer Theater Guild, for which I was treasurer for the prior year for Councilmember Marty Brown, and that included a meeting about participatory budgeting, which just got passed by the City Council. I also hosted a meeting as part of Better Vallejo for Dr. Ramona Bishop for the community. And so as supervisor, I will also reach out to folks in the same way, because I think transparent government is very important. When people know what's going on with their government, it creates an active and engaged community, and that would only help our community be stronger. My husband Jeff Kingman and I moved to Vallejo in 2000, and we were grateful to find a house in the neighborhood of Vallejo Heights. I joined the Vallejo Heights Neighborhood Association Board and have been a member, and I'm actually currently vice president. One of the things what we strive to do is create a really great reputation for our neighborhood and for our community. We do a newsletter monthly, we host meetings, we invite city council members, city staff to educate us about what's going on in our community. I also was a treasurer of the Meyer Theater Guild, and I've worked with them since 2007 after the lawsuit that there were two boards that were fighting each other. They had a lawsuit. In 2007, they had $13,000 of code enforcement fines and $67 in the bank. And through the work of the community, almost all volunteer with some donations. It's now a thriving community center. I was a treasurer for the prior year, and I rebuilt their financial systems and to help them make sure that they are meeting their fiscal requirements as imposed by the federal government for nonprofits. So anyway, in the middle of all that and all my volunteerism, I also ran, with my husband Jeff, we ran 2 fundraisers to raise money for HIV/AIDS services, 2 fundraising marathons, and we raised $15,000. And I'm obviously very high energy and very engaged, and I would bring the same energy to the county level. And I would be honored to have your vote on June 5th. Thank you.
So thank you very much, all of you, and that was great. I'm going to take, since I have the microphone, I'm going to just ask the first couple of questions. I wish my phone hadn't fallen on the floor. And so the first question I want to address to Susan, just to clear this up, because question number 8 is, how long have you been a registered Democrat, and why are you a Democrat, and how are these values relate to the office you seek? And you passed on that question, which could be a moral...
Publicly, I'm declining to state.
Okay. And so, and that's fine.
Thank you.
I want to have a follow-up, though. It says, because question 9 is, have you read and do you support the California Democratic Party platform? And your answer is, I read through the published 2008 Democratic platform and I generally agree. Let me be specific.
Okay.
There's 2 issues we want to know where you stand on with regard to the platform. And those 2 issues are marriage equality and women's reproductive freedom.
I do believe in a woman's right of choice. And the other one was marriage equality.
Right.
I was raised Roman Catholic, so I have to say that I respect the wishes of the church.
Okay, great. And just one more question for you, and that's, why don't you have any recycling containers at the car wash?
Do you know that all my trash is recycled
Huh?
at the end of each week? Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's enough picking on you. Aaron? No, several of you spoke about transportation issues, and it's something I feel strongly about. I'm a commuter. I used to take the ferry, can't afford it anymore. Take the 80 bus, take BART. A couple of days ago, a BART employee was fired for he worked in one of the booths and he collected coupon, BART passes, and he gave them to a student who was traveling from Antioch to San Francisco to go to school. I personally think that we shouldn't be charging kids to go to school. That even if they're going from Antioch to San Francisco, it ought to be that's something that the community ought to. Linda, do you need to go?
I do need to leave,
yeah.
so I
have
a question.
Yeah, my question is about transportation. So, Linda, did you want to say anything about transportation before you leave?
Actually,
I have to tell you that since if the question wasn't directed at me, I truthfully wasn't paying that close of attention to the question. So, with regard to transportation at the county level, transportation is pretty much delegated to the Solano Transportation Authority. So, as a board of supervisors, we don't deal directly with transportation issues. but certainly the infrastructure issues that are part of building roads, building bridges, of connecting our communities together is something that we are all truly concerned about. And so we lobby always on behalf of STA, and I do personally. I've been to Washington 4 times now to lobby for transportation projects and to certainly ensure that the infrastructure here is maintained. In addition to that, the county has its own roads that it maintains. And so when we look at what that kind of infrastructure activity is, it's one of the great ways to bring jobs into our communities. It is one of the places where there's good, at least historically has been, good federal dollars that we can bring here, and we lobby and try to bring as much money as we can so that we can contribute to good transportation systems, good and safe roads, and to provide good jobs for everyone. Thank you very much. And on that note, I just wanted to say too that I wanted to introduce my husband, who's sitting in the second row. That's Brian. And I don't know what I would do without him. And so I'm really sorry, but we have another engagement. And so I'm really sorry. No, I just wanted to say that I didn't know about, the wide leading, I actually didn't know about this. I think there was an oversight because originally I think it was intended to be District 1, and somebody said, oh, what about District 2? So it was really only 2 days ago that I learned of this. So I could come for an hour, and I was really delighted to be here. So thank you all for letting me share the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
So, I'm just going to hand the microphone.
What am I supposed to talk about?
You don't have
You mean,
the
you want me to talk about marriage, equality, and that kind of thing? I will. Is that what you want me to talk about?
The question on the floor is really about transportation. Do you have anything you want to say about transportation?
Well, I would say that I was the chair of the Solano Transportation Authority for a period of time. I've been on the Solano Transportation Authority for many years. I worked hard to correct the situation. In the year I was the chair, to correct the situation on Highway 12. You probably know that Highway 12, which is used by many Valaoans, it's the highway that goes from Fairfield out to Rio Vista. It's a death trap. It's been there for many years, equivalent to what we had on Highway 37. So I devoted my year, because I did take a view of my job there as more than just Vallejo, but the entire county, and devoted myself to making progress on the issue of barriers, traffic barriers on Highway 12. The result of that was the board, after I left, continued with that commitment, and we've had significant improvements to that road. We continue to have significant improvements, and I want you to know it's not that easy to do that. I want you to know that it takes working with people who have other agendas that they feel very strongly about. In this case, with regard to Highway 12 and improvements to Highway 12, it had to do with people who are very concerned with open space, with discouraging leapfrog development in the county, and in protecting the ability of wildlife to move from one place to another. However, I think I have a reputation for being willing to listen to both sides, so I did. And during that period of time, we sought to come up with solutions that compromised when we could, so that if there was a coyote that needed to get across the road, there were barriers constructed that would allow for that kind of passage. You know, Davis did it with frogs, and we were able to do some of that there. But I stuck to the idea that when it comes to the issues like that when you're dealing with head-on collisions, that's more important than anything. You've got to correct that, and there's other ways to discourage leapfrog development, but you can't use that concern to discourage improvements that have to be made. So the other thing in transportation, I have been involved, as you know, with the ferry service and making sure that it's preserved for Vallejo and extended throughout the bay. I have done that for the past 4 years. In fact, I've been doing it for 10 years because the name of the organization was changed, but not the job. So I went into that as the Water Transportation Authority, continued as the San Francisco Bay Water Emergency Transportation Authority, and that's what it's been for the last 4 years. So it's about 12 total. So my commitment to issues doesn't go away. I stay with it, and I want to assure you that if I'm elected, fortunate enough to represent you on the Board of Supervisors, I promise you that kind of commitment.
You just pass it down the road.
What's the question again?
Transportation.
Just transportation. Well, one of the things about transportation in Solano County, as you had mentioned, all the jobs seem to be, or many of the jobs that we go to are outside of the county. So I think getting more jobs in Vallejo is really important. And there is a program, there's a plan put together by Bay Area Association of Governments, ABAG, I think that's the acronym. It's called Jobs Housing Connection 2040. And in that plan, it talks about the various growth throughout the counties and the huge job growth in Santa Clara and San Mateo, and very little growth in Solano. Part of it is the ag that we have here, which we need to protect. But in the various cities, we have a Measure T that just passed, the orderly growth, that keeps the development within cities and keeps the county open space and agriculture, which is a great plan. It keeps our county beautiful. But in that plan, Bear Island is missing as a job employment center in their maps. It's not even mentioned. And so those kinds of things really need to be looked at. I'm very careful about looking for those kinds of things, and I would make sure that we don't get forgotten. I think what we see now, you keep reading about BART is extending it down to San Jose and extending further and further. And as I believe, Vallejo had the ability to be part of BART and decided not to back 40 years ago. So this job housing connection kind of feels like the same opportunity, and so we need to be advocating to make sure that we are very well represented on plans like that. Thank you.
I didn't have an opportunity to sit on any of the transportation committees that board members are appointed to because mainly the gentleman that sat on the board decided that that was important for them to do those. I was a bit disappointed in that because I was very interested in serving on one of the transportation boards. A number of the boards, though, that I sat on instead were services that I really had not been familiar with previously. My background is in real estate development, building, housing, that sort of thing. So I actually found that it was a blessing to me to not have to sit on some of those boards that are out of town and far away, because it helped me work on those frontline services that I believe are so important, and those are the important ones are the children and people that are less, are more fragile and need help. People who need an extra help to become good, healthy families, and I think those are important programs too. So I learned a little bit more about the children's programs for people seniors, programs for people with disabilities. Also, and that's not on transportation, but when you build a community, you have to make sure you have a balance of infrastructure, and of course, transportation is a big part of that. And I'm going to stop at that.
Well, I haven't sat on any boards on the transportation department, but I have been following the ABAG and the purchase of the piece of property in San Francisco. And I've got to say that I know that the toll money that's coming in is extensive, but I definitely disagree with how they're able to set all common sense aside and turn around and pay $30 million more for a piece of property that was just purchased for $60 million, and then spend another $70 million to upgrade it. And I'm from a family where you're thinking common sense all the time, and for some reason somebody has totally lost common sense on this issue, where if they had any sense whatsoever in how to spend the taxpayers' money, they would find a community that has a little area outside of the town
spend $100,000 or maybe $300,000 for the piece of property and build them a state-of-the-art facility for $3 million. So I don't understand how they can say this is a just use of the taxpayers' money to spend $170 million to renovate the old post office. And you know, so anyway, I'm totally appalled at that kind of taxpayer spending that money, and I hope that the audit that's going through will show that this is not an effective use of the taxpayers' money. Just because they have millions sitting in an account, you know, it doesn't mean that they can spend it now. Let me get back to the idea of transportation, and there's a couple of issues here that really they need to look at. First of all, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's why you've got the bus, that's why you've got the ferry, that's why you've got the BART. Anytime you're looking at transportation, you know, something might happen to the BART, then the bus is going to pick up. But I've got to tell you from experience with a boat, the boat is about the most ineffective way to burn up taxpayers' money. I mean, it is pushing a vehicle through lead in the water. I'm telling you, if you've ever been in a boat trying to push it by yourself, you'll realize that it takes about 4 times more energy pushing something through the water than it does if it's sitting on flat ground trying to roll it. So it's not a very effective way. And if anybody's ever had a boat, they know that the saying that the boat is a hole that you pour money into. So as we've seen that the ferry system is breaking down and that they're having a terrible time, even with keeping the engines after they've switched over to freshwater cooling, that it is a very ineffective way, and it's just a lot of wear and tear trying to push a boat through the water. So, but the main thing that I find that we need to keep track of is, in order to encourage mass transportation, we need to have a level of decency on these buses. And I know that there's got to be somebody professional that can handle the decency on buses. And they should not be allowed to harass women or harass the elderly or any of this. There should be something that they can pinch and stop that's set in stone, because it's going to keep people from being ridership. And I've heard people say that I don't like my wife being on the bus because they're being harassed. Somebody's saying something. And there should be something that was done through the professional on how to keep people's level of decency and ethics in check while they're taking mass transportation. Thank you.
That's why I gave you all this. So you can get it down here. Okay. I think what really needs to be said about transportation, public transportation, is 80% of it is subsidized by federal and state dollars. And so really the systems we have put together are, our fare box does not cover all the costs. I've been fortunate enough to work with the Soul Trans Board since its inception in the consolidation of the Vallejo and the bus system. And for me, that's a perfect situation where you have 2 separate systems with 2 separate sets of leadership and 2 different contracts with operators that has been consolidated to reduce the costs of providing a level of service that meets the needs of both communities. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say we are not having our financial difficulties. We are. But what the city of Vallejo was facing in a deficit for our bus transit system was well over $3 million. As a combined agency, we're at about $2 million. So we're in a much better shape financially as we seek, as a combined agency, additional funding from MTC and STA to move forward with making sure that we are providing services that meets the needs of the community. You know, I support the work that's done on the roads. One of the things that we've had in Solano County is a failed transportation tax. And if you know anything about that tax, it essentially provides matching funds with the federal dollars that we could receive in our county. And absent of having those matching funds, we are not a contender for those federal dollars. Other counties are who've passed it. Interestingly enough, the cities of Vallejo and Benicia pass that tax every time it's been moved forward. But cities like Vacaville and Dixon and Fairfield have yet to see what that, the power or the need and how important it is that we have those matching funds. Absent of transit, whether it's ferry system or bus or roads. I've been working on alternative modes. I've been working with the Napa Valley Vine Trail to bring a trail service that runs from Calistoga all the way to the Vallejo Ferry. It's a 10-foot wide trail through the entire length of it, which is about 47 miles. It's coming before the council in May to get approval to move forward with the EIR. And I think that's what we need to look at, excuse me. Allergies. Is providing different alternatives for our communities to get to jobs and to get to school and to exercise. And so those are the things I'll be working on as a county supervisor. Anybody have a mint or a hard candy?
I have gum.
So, look. Questions? Who has questions? Berkey.
Everybody here wants to get elected to the supervisor's position. I've seen some of you who have spoken as a council member. I've seen some of you who have spoken from the podium as a citizen. It seems to me that when you're in a leadership position, the problem we have in this country is you've got two polarized parties in this country. How can you, as a supervisor, work with different people, which includes employees, without blaming them and beating them over the head and saying they're the reason we have the problem, when 90% of the problem is the economy? It's not salaries that were negotiated when there was good times. But how are you going to get people to work with you if your position is to beat them over the head? So in a nutshell, how are you going to work with not only the employees, but the public, without beating either one over the head and saying, this side's wrong and they're the ones that caused the problem? How can you work with everybody to solve the problems?
Can I answer that first?
You've got the mic.
I've got the mic. Well, Berkey, first of all, I like you. That goes a long way.
Oh, you lost a lot of
You know, I like a lot of people, but I like you. And to me, solving these problems has to do with being open, of listening, of not blaming, and not playing the blame game. You asked me one time why I have not defended myself from a few comments made over the last 4 years about my role in the past in terms of finances for the city. And I have to tell you, one of the reasons I don't do it is because, first of all, I don't think they're blaming me. I think they're looking at what happened before and trying to figure out a way out of it. And I don't want to, by responding in a negative way, to be engaging in that kind of blame game. So I think what you're pointing to is that. But you know what? I want to take this chance, and maybe it's a risky thing to do, but I want to take this chance to say something. You know, when you reach this age that I'm at, you want to be remembered for what you really think, okay? And the question came up about marriage and equality in marriage. To me, there are two different things here. One is a democratic civil government, and the other is church, and the particular churches people believe in. The churches have a right to decide who they will marry and who they won't. But that's separate from civil government. And in my view, people who want to be married ought to be allowed to be married and to make that commitment. And in my view, the churches that don't agree with that should get used to the fact that they're existing in a democratic society. And that's the end of the story, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I am a Catholic. I take part in that, but I am a Notre Dame University Catholic that invited Barack Obama to be a graduation speaker against the advice or the wishes of the local bishop. That's the way it goes. That's a democratic society, and that's what I love to live in. So I don't know why I felt I had to go into that, because you're asking about an entirely different subject, but I'm glad I said it.
So one of the things that I did when I first moved to Vallejo is analyze the contracts in 2003. And unfortunately, we discovered that there was a $10 million difference between what that contract was going to promise to pay, and there were no revenues identified to pay for them. So there was alarm bells went off, and unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, the pain was forestalled by the housing rise, and by 2007, we really hit the wall. We were heading there in 2003, and 2007 we hit. So it's and I was very surprised that this community did not know what was going on in 2003. There was just a few people sitting in the city council chambers when those contracts got approved, and it was unfortunate. There was just no information all around, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so transparent in government. Transparency in government is so important to me, because people have to know the problems in order to solve them. So I don't know how that would have, buying arbitration, I wasn't in those negotiations. I have no idea what got discussed. So I heard that was the problem, and I think we've heard people say that was the problem. So I worked very hard to get rid of binding arbitration, because I felt like things were too unbalanced. You've got an arbitrator looking with blinders at certain contracts who cannot look at the entire budget of the city. And so it's just a setup for failure. And then, so anyway, I believe actually that as much as we can, we should level, especially employee benefits, level them across all the unions. It's very difficult because they get negotiated at different times. And we still saw in bankruptcy that certain unions got more than others, and that was really unfortunate because the lowest paid people bore the brunt of the cuts. And so raises during bankruptcy was untenable for me. I just don't know why that happened. So I would promise to not make those kinds of decisions, and I would also promise to make sure that we have transparency in government at the county level, as I've strived to do at the city level. Thank you.
I don't believe that a governing body should be bankrupt. I just don't believe that it should happen. I think that the most important thing is for all of the people, all of us, to know that that's sovereign, that can't happen. And if you have to stay in the room with somebody you don't like for a really long time, you need to work through that. If you do go bankrupt, then everything you own should disappear. It should be so awful that you have to completely start over. It should never have happened, but it did. But I think that what we need to do is we need all of us, the people who directly provide the services, the people at the very top, and the people at the very bottom, and all those who receive the service. We need to understand that it wasn't any particular person, any particular board's fault. It was that bubble that was created. And then when it crashed, when that bubble broke, all of the decisions that were made on that line of this is how much money we're going to have 5 years from now or 10 years from now, and it was an inflated number. And a whole lot of people got hurt on that. I know Bob and I did. And we humbly live. We live very humbly. But the whole market, we need to understand that it's much bigger than any person sitting here or all of us in this room. What happened is much bigger than all of us. And so we have to work harder and harder to make sure that it never happens again, that it doesn't happen at the county level. It's happening at the state right now. It's happening at the federal government right now. The city of Vallejo is bankrupt. All we have left that's stable is county government. And county government is extremely important to all of us who live in the cities. And the reason that it is because it takes care of our least people. I mean, And we all have to say, are we our brother's keepers? Are we? And if we are, does that mean that every child in this community should have food on their plate and be able to think and go to school? If they don't have any food, they can't learn. If you build a house, if I find the coolest lot in Vallejo with a picture of the sleeping lady, that's Mount Tamalpais. If I've got the best lot in the world and I can build this $1 million house, and I've got the best place to live in the whole wide world, and I don't have a road to get there, and I have no schools for my children, and I have no sewer line, so I have no toilets, I don't have $1 million house. I taught students with disabilities for 10 years. And these students were students that used the mental health system. There was a gentleman, director of welfare, who I was able to work with for many years, those 8 years. And he told me, Lee, when you leave here, I lost, and I was crying because I loved my job. I loved what I did. And I was excited because I was working to keep my community beautiful and a place that I love to live. And he told me, you go out there, quit crying, get out there, and you find out what the people need, what the little people need, and you find out what their concerns are, and you get jobs that teach you about the services that you've been giving. So I got a job at the school as a teacher. I got myself credentialed, and I taught students who use the mental health system. And I'm going to tell you, there is an underground of people that most of us never see and never know. And it's the disabled and students who use and people who use the mental health system. And they are bright and beautiful and great people. And I built a program from 23, 24, working with different county agencies. I built a program and ended up with 70, 75 students. And they said, well, you can't teach that many. But they gave me some great teachers to work with me. My husband, Mr. Bobby Simmons, who plays music, was my music appreciation teacher. And I had students that never talked to anybody before get up on a microphone and sing with Bob Simmons. It was wonderful. I had an art teacher who was given an award for being an outstanding art teacher by the city of Vallejo, and she was the art teacher for that class. So what I'm saying is that, what I'm trying to say is that, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's exciting, life is good, and we need to work hard on making sure that those services are stabilized, that we keep county government stable, and that whoever up here you elect, make sure it's somebody that cares enough, that makes sure that those services for people that are fragile in our cities and our county, that they're supported, okay?
Nicely put, because part of being civilized is taking care of our less fortunate. And I am an advocate of the less fortunate, and I really think that a lot of our people that don't do well in school are because of having some issues that they cannot fit in our society. So we look at them and we're saying, wow, look at, they're not able to thrive, but they'll never be able to thrive. And that's why I go back to when Tony says we need to rehabilitate these people, when they get out of prison. And I'm afraid that they aren't really able to function on a level that we all function on. So in the deficit that we've had facing us now with the release of, I'm not sure the numbers, maybe 26,000 prison inmates, because it's been deemed that the non-violent get to be released. And I guess you may all know that since we had the 3 strikes law, we were requiring a pretty stable community. I mean, we really were having a very stable community. And it wasn't until the judges decided that, well, we gotta go ahead, we don't want to feed these people, we're gonna go ahead and turn them loose for us to take care of. Even though they know there's no jobs out here for the educated, We just happen to be what they need. How do you get what you need? You steal what you need in order to get what you need. So now we leave our home and we find that they've turned these folks loose. They're unable to survive in our society at the level that we've all been able to survive at. And now it's up to us to take care of them. And it's a crude way to take care of them because basically it's, you know, coming in, they're running out the back door as we come in the front door, the non-violent criminals. So I would propose that we recognize these people as really not rehabilitable. More like it would be cheaper, since it runs between $46,000 and $98,000 a year to house a prisoner, that we should just admit it's way more cheaper to take the $6,000, put them in a care home, and give them $10 a day so that they have some kind of self-respect, so that they don't have to go live out in the marsh, so that they have actually some kind of income coming in that makes them feel like they're actually somebody that's accepted into our society. So I really think that, you know, by getting them out of the prison, we at least need to give them a home, give them a den mother, give them the rules, make them do chores, and give them a little bit of money. And then they can feel like they are actually a part of our society and that we don't have to look down at them like they are an outcast or why aren't they trying hard enough. Okay?
So we're kind of losing focus on and lost
That's a big
control
issue for us in Vallejo.
what the question is, and I know Aaron, it's Aaron's turn.
Well, I
to
was
speak.
just gonna ask, this is kind of like telephone.
Yeah. It is Aaron's turn to speak, but
Or gossip, or, yeah.
we got like a half hour before we gotta vacate this place and put away all the chairs and everything. So is there any more questions that people have from the
Oh, wait
floor?
a minute, that's not fair.
Well, I'm gonna let you speak next, and you can address the question, whatever the question was that's currently being addressed, which I no longer know what that is. But if you know what it is, you go ahead and answer it. Yeah, Bob, what?
I was just wondering what the salary is on the elected position and whether or not it's part-time or full-time.
Okay, well,
Say
hang
again?
on, I was gonna answer Berkey's question, because I didn't get a chance to do that.
Yeah, and we're gonna let you answer that.
That's what it was. And just for the record, I am Catholic, but I'm also pro-choice, so just to get that off my chest. Berkey, I understood your question to be about employee relations.
And regular citizens too.
And citizens, yeah. So in 2007, when I was elected to the city council, we were in a very desperate state. And it was pretty clear early on that the communication that the council had and staff had with employees, as well as the community, was not very clear. And it was not compassionate. And it was not understanding. And there were many gaps. The communication that was occurring was strictly between negotiators and whoever our city manager was at the time, because there have been 4 of them since I've been there, and the employee, the union leaders. And that was it. And what I found in speaking with the employees individually, not about any positions or renegotiating their contract, but just having conversations with people, because amazingly, these employees work for us, they provide the services for you, they live in our communities, and they deserve the respect that they have worked for, to hear from their elected officials, to have a communication stream that was clear and concise, and was passionate. And that wasn't happening, and that wasn't there. So the information the employees were getting were strictly from their union heads, and it wasn't very clear to them what the situation was, the financial situation was in the city. And I thought that was a complete disservice. And I talk about that a lot. As I talked about that with every city manager that we've had. If we're going to talk about our financial situation in the city, we need to make sure that our employee groups, collectively and individually, know what our situation is. Because otherwise, how are they going to be in a position to fully understand what needs to be done to get the ship going in the right direction? And so, together as a council, we've been working on making sure that our financial situation is transparent, that not only the community knows what's happening, but our employees do, from the highest paid to the lowest paid. They know where we stand. I agree with the disappointment that our benefit levels and are different for different employee groups. I think it's unfortunate. That's a situation that I was elected into. It's not one that I created. However, as we were going through the bankruptcy process, because of this lack of communication, not all our employee groups were willing to come to the table and talk about how we can work together to solve problems. So we had to take them one at a time. And that's unfortunate. But there's a bright side, because as a council, we've set a baseline benefit level for everybody, from city council and within all the employee groups. And that's what we're striving to get to, so that we as a community can support our employees and they know this is where we are for health coverage, for dental, for vision. Not so much with pensions, unfortunately. We've got some work to do there. But our firefighter contract has a two-tier pension system, and that's where we're heading with the rest of our employee groups. It's unfortunate that working with CalPERS is like talking to a brick wall. They are not at all flexible into changing formulas so that we as a community can make promises that we can keep. So we have to find our workarounds. And that's what we've been doing. We've been, I'd say, very creative. I think we've been looking for sustainable solutions. And we as a council have set a path moving forward. As your supervisor, I'm going to make sure that we have clear communication with our employees, that government is transparent to the citizens, and that government is brought to the community. And that's one of the things that I've been frustrated with our supervisorial district, and that is I don't feel that I'm represented, and that's why I'm running, because I and my family, I'm not represented, and I don't think most of you are at the county level. And so when you're going to cast your vote for who your next supervisor is, make sure it's for somebody who's going to be a strong advocate for your needs, and who's going to make sure that the government is run from a transparent standpoint, it's fiscally sound, and that your needs are met.
I agree.
Thank you.
Next question.
You're still on?
The
I'm
question
gonna hang on
was,
to it, because I'm tired of being
what
last.
is the salary for this elected position, and is it part-time or full-time?
I don't know the exact number for the salary. It really depends. Well, I'll let you answer that question exactly. As I understand it, there's longevity pay. So if you come in with years of service in elected office, and I believe that starts, if not at 5 years, it starts at 10 years, you get the base plus whatever that bump is for longevity pay. Also included, as I understand it, is a auto allowance. And Lee, it sounds like she's got those numbers. I think it's I think the starting salary's in the $90,000 range. But I'm not-
$94,750 is the base pay.
There you go. It is a full-time job.
Look at when I get there.
It is a full-time job. It is, they meet on Tuesdays during the day, which is great. For those of us who are used to meeting at late nights and go until the wee hours of the following morning. You also are appointed to boards and commissions that you're required to sit on, as well as a part of your duties in supporting your community. And then you work within the community. This is how I perceive it. To meet with community members, to listen to the needs and concerns of the organizations that are supported by the county, to work to resolve issues. I think that's a really important aspect of the job, and to answer Bob's questions.
What's the salary for the city council?
Oh, it's exorbitant. I think it's around $13,000 a year, and then we are offered a benefit package as well. I have not taken the medical coverage because my medical coverage comes from my husband's union job. But I do take the dental coverage because I like to go to the dentist, get my teeth cleaned. That's just a little known fact. So, yeah, and then, you know, just back to that other conversation about the benefit packages for the council, it's the same as the direction that we're heading for the rest of the employee group. So we have taken our hits, and I'm more than willing to do that at the county level. That's a short question to answer.
Yeah, so we've got an answer to that question, so I'm not gonna ask each person to answer that question. What I am gonna do is invite everybody to do a summary, to sum up. So I'm gonna start with you, and take a couple of minutes. A couple of minutes.
5 minutes?
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
2. So I just want to say, I feel like I've been very well represented at the county level by Supervisor Barbara Candilis, who has endorsed me. She has worked very hard on orderly growth, keeping cities, keeping the boundaries of cities in open space, protecting the Delta. I attended a dinner 2 weeks ago. Tony and Tinsley was there. Sorry, I thought it was, never mind. You were there too. She received a Career Achievement Award from the Solano County Child Abuse Prevention Council for all of the programs that she helped foster in this county. And really that's what the county is about. I think Lee has talked about that. The services that this county provides are huge and wide, from child support services, the public defender, all kinds of stuff. And what's really important about the county right now is we're in a fiscal crisis, and we've got to make sure that we spend money very, very wisely. And we've seen at the city council level some poor decisions made during bankruptcy with the prior council majority. I still have such a problem with that raise that was given to one particular employee group, while others had to take the brunt of some of the cuts. So I think I will well represent the folks here at the county level, and I would love to get your vote, and I'd be honored to have your vote. Excuse me. I actually just wanted to say that my endorsements include Supervisor Barbara Candilis, as well as 4 of our city council members, Councilmember Stephanie Gomes, Councilmember Marty Brown, Councilmember Robert McConnell, and Councilmember Bob Sampayan, as well as many other community members, and I also have the endorsement of the Sierra Club and the Orderly Growth Committee. So I would be honored to have your vote, and I would be proud to represent you at the county level. Thank you.
Ladies first.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's so nice. I took up too much time tonight. I get on a roll and I forget. And so please, cut me off in 2.5 minutes, all right? I just want to say that I really enjoyed serving for 8 years before. I'm very proud of the work I did as a county supervisor before. I think I am as concerned as you are about the fiscal responsibility, and that we never, ever the county cannot be allowed to get in the shape the city of Vallejo did. That cannot be allowed to happen. And so I'm asking or saying to you, I don't care which person you pick up here, unless you just pick a person that has the kind of qualities you want in a supervisor, and someone that can do the job and make sure that no one ever has to vote again for bankruptcy. That's wrong. It should not happen. That's all.
That was nice of you.
Sure. I'm having difficulty getting this. All right. Well, what I wanted to say was, first of all, I want to acknowledge the contributions that Supervisor Candilis has made over the years. I've been on the Children's Network Board for over 20 years. I think the longest serving member on any board in the county. In any event, I appreciate the importance of the services that she has championed. For example, the creation of the Office of Family Violence Prevention in 1998. During the next few years, First 5 Solano, which is something else she supported, will be distributing some $12 million over the next 3 years to various organizations and agencies that deal with children and children's issues. Young families, particularly families headed by single parents, single women, most of them. So as a supervisor, I would look to continue that kind of effort. But I would like to point to some things that are peculiar, I suppose, to my experience, and that is, I was associated with the United States Air Force for many years as a member of the Judge Advocate General's Department, and did most of my duty here at Travis and at McClellan. And I think that Travis Air Force Base is as important, and protecting it is as important to the county as Mare Island was to the city. So I will be very attentive to that issue. The other thing is that our veterans deserve more in terms of services and focus and recognition than they're currently getting. The condition of our veterans building in Vallejo is a disgrace. It's something that needs to be addressed again. It needs to be looked at again. I understand what the issues are. It's in a condition now to where the repair of it may exceed the value of the building. Well, you know what? That was true of the Empress Theater too. And we managed to do it. And we created a wonderful asset for the community in that Empress Theater. And there's no reason that veterans can't be treated just as well. Excuse me. In terms of endorsements, I want to say that I have strong law enforcement endorsement that appreciates that I'm concerned not only about addressing crimes that have been committed, but preventing crime in the community. And so I'm very proud to be able to say that I have the endorsement of Gary Stanton, who is our long-term Solano County Sheriff Coroner, and I have the endorsement of David Paulson, who is the retired, longtime Solano County District Attorney. I've worked with them, I've worked with many city and county officials across the state, and in fact across the nation. And I'm equipped to represent this city in a way that will move us forward from where we are now, and in a way that does not encourage factionalism. I don't think people like to see leaders fighting with each other in public, because it's like when your parents are fighting. It creates unease. It creates a situation of people that don't know where the next thing is, where the next foot is going to drop. So that's not the kind of leadership you'll get from me. I also want to say that I have support from prior council members that I worked for. You may remember Cynthia Kay, some of you, a wonderful councilwoman, probably one of the brightest people I've ever known in government. And she said to me the other day, "Tony, I'm supporting you, I'm proud to support you, but you're crazy." That's exactly what she said. In any event, I also have the support of Louis F. Brown, who's our first African-American member of the city council. He told me the other day, again, very proud to be out there supporting me, he and his son. I have the support of Kathy Hoffman. As you know, she's George Miller's senior aide in our area, long-term member of the city council, long-term friend, and somebody well-positioned to help the city and very vigorous in doing that. I have the support of Mike Palmaffi.
Tony, you got a filibuster going.
I'm sorry, I'll stop in a minute. Mike Palmaffi, and finally, somebody who did a great deal for the county as a county supervisor over many years, and that's John Silva. So with that, I want to say, I will look forward to serving you. I will do the job for you, and I will never leave it undone.
Go ahead. Thank you, I appreciate it. I want to thank everybody for coming again tonight in the United Dems, for hosting this event. I think the turnout's been fabulous, so thank you for your concern about who's going to be your next representative in the county. I want to let you know that I come to you with proven leadership based on my skills, my experience. I have a passion for not only the city of Vallejo, but also the county. And I've got the energy to work hard for you, and I plan on doing that. I have a number of endorsements that share that belief with me. One is Congressman Mike Thompson, who I already mentioned, the Solano County Central Democratic Club, it's always a mouthful, as well as, and I probably didn't get it right, the Central Labor Council,
the Napa Solano Building Trades Organization, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, the Sierra Club, the Orderly Growth, as well as many, many other individuals, small business owners, teachers, working men and women in our community support my election to the county supervisor to represent you. And I will do that, and I will give it 100% of my time, if not more. I'm working hard to win this race. I'm knocking on doors, I'm making phone calls, I'm meeting with voters every single day. And I love that part of this job, actually. It's probably the best part ever. I grew up knocking on doors, and I was telling my dad the other day as we were walking a precinct, I said, did you ever think that at 72 you'd be doing this again? He said, no, I didn't. But this is what a father does for their daughter. So off we went and knocked on more doors. I'm a good listener, and I want to work with you to make sure that you're getting the services that you deserve. And I think what we also need, and I want to honor that Supervisor Barbara Candelas has served our community, and I think it's honorable for anybody to get up and do what we're doing here tonight and to spend their working days serving the community. I mean, I don't care what you get paid. It's a hard job, and it's 24/7. You go to the grocery store, you're asked a question. You go to the gym, you're asked a question. You go anywhere, you're working all the time. But I want to say that what we need as in a county supervisor is a balanced approach. We need to pay attention to our children. In the county of Solano, children between the ages of 5 and 0, 30% of them live below the federal poverty level. And that is abhorrent. And these are our children who are going to be our future leaders. We need to address their needs. And we also need to look to jobs. We need to work hard to make sure that we are bringing the jobs that our residents are prepared for here to our county. That is so important for our recovery. It's so important for our fiscal stability as we move forward. I believe in preserving our open space. I sat on the Tri-City County Cooperative Board, and I'm anxious to work with the county supervisors in putting together a Solano open space plan where we have a regional park district running from all areas of our county that we can enjoy and where wildlife can run free. I support a robust transportation plan. I will continue to work with Soltrans and look to consolidate that service with Fairfield and Vacaville, and so that we can move our residents from jobs to their homes, to schools, to shopping, so that we can all prosper here in the county. So again, I want to thank you tonight, and I look forward to your consideration when you go out and vote between May 9th and June 5. And if you have any additional questions about me, I've got my flyer on the back. I've got some information there on how you can get in touch with me through my website, or we can talk afterwards. I'll share my phone number, whatever you need to find out the burning questions that you may have about why, what, who, how. I'm here for you, and I'm here to listen to you and help you solve your problems. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Susan B. Anthony. I'm the daughter of the Seven Flags Car Wash founders. I just want you to know that I am honored to be here, that unlike some of my constituents here that have a lot of years under their belt, my father has given me 110% of common sense. I know when things are on the right track. I know when things are going off track. I know how to help save money. I know how to avoid a loss. This county needs me. I know when to say, I don't know a thing about this. Somebody else needs to look at this. I am not one to think I'm an expert at something that I have no knowledge of. But when I know a situation and I can say that I'm not the one to make the evaluation of it, I am the first one to step up to the plate to say, this needs to be looked at by a professional. And one of the things that Vallejo needs, it needs a professional to manage our tourist industry. It needs a professional on how to handle the police department, on how they handle our tourists. We need to be able to be a transportation, not just a tourist destination point, but we need to be considered an entertainment hub. We want people to leave here with the thought that what a great community with a bunch of friendly people. We want to come back. And the tourist industry is worth billions. And I gotta say that we need to be prepared when tourists come up to you and they have a question. Everybody needs to chip in and take care of these people. We've got the America's Cup coming to town, and we people don't know anything like these people have money. They have money, they don't even need to talk about money. So, you know, this is something that's coming to our area, and we all need to be aware that these people, we need to return. They need to return here. We want them to be welcome. So when it comes to balancing the budget, I gotta say that you have to look internally. We can't just keep saying, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. It has to be cut from within. And I gotta say that I am not one to impose on any of the unions, that I really believe it's the unions that have to sit down, like we were talking, that it has to come in from internally for them to be a part of making decisions. It's just like making rules or laws that you need to get the adversaries in there to write the laws. You can't just impose somebody with the law. They have to be a part of it. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here today and let you know that my father gave me a wonderful brain and I have a very good function of it. And I can tell you that I will spend your taxpayers' dollars like I earned them and not like it's grown on trees. And I want you to know that I'd be honored to be your supervisor.
So thank you everybody for coming. We gotta get it picked up.
Thank you for moderating.
Yeah.
We gotta keep on with the
Oh, yeah. Paul says to eat all the food, so nobody can go. Lock the door until the food's gone.
All right.